This is the September 4th, 2024 meeting of the Portsmouth Energy Advisory Committee. I'm Councilor Tabor. We'll go through the roll call. Peter Somcich is not here. Tracy Cameron is out of the state. Tom Rooney is excused. He wrote us and can't make it. Herb Lloyd.
Here.
And Ben D'Antonio.
Present.
And Kevin Charette.
Present.
And from staff, we have Stephanie Secor.
Jillian Harris.
And Jillian, yes. Okay. We did not meet in August. I hope you guys all enjoyed a little break. Some work continued, though, during the interim. I went back to our dot voting exercise, and we had set priorities around community solar and around energy conservation in city buildings. I think we'll pick up on energy conservation in city buildings in October. Herb Lloyd has helped us with our solar power on the sewer plants initiative and National Renewable Energy Lab. We'll get an update on that. We've also got our oversight of Portsmouth Community Power. So over the summer, we did launch the Seacoast Green Challenge. We'll check in on that. We've got a New Hampshire Saves button-up workshop that you got some information in your packet on as well. So we are making some progress on community solar. Of course, the big opportunity is anywhere, if we could do something with Jones Avenue. That's a personal favorite of mine, but it will take a long time and a lot of research to put that together. But I think that as we get into the fall months, that'd be a good productive area to work. Maybe we'll have a work session on it with Katrin and Peter Rice and Peter Britz, and maybe go out and visit the site.
So I had asked Karen, I had asked you if you could take point on that. I'm happy to do some heavy lifting. I don't know if you feel comfortable kind of leading us into doing some research on what our options are.
Yeah, I'm happy to get involved. I mean, Peter Somcich had agreed, but we had a tough time connecting with Pete during August.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's still interested. I don't want to leapfrog him because he's right.
He wrote
just
to
last
us
week, a couple of days ago, he said he had an update, but we hadn't had any discussion with Peter.
Right. He wrote to us and said he had touched base with a number of the state agencies.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I was expecting to hear from him tonight.
Yeah.
So maybe he's
okay
down seeing the vice president and caught in traffic or something.
Yeah.
As I tried multiple times to connect with him and was not able to get any response.
Yeah. I mean, we did have one call with Katrin.
Yeah.
Set up, had a good discussion, but Peter wasn't part of that. But so let's follow your lead. If Peter wants to stay point, that's fine. If you want, I can slide in there as well.
Let me check in with him.
Yeah, whatever your preference is.
Let me check in with him.
Yeah.
Second item is approval of July minutes. We'll postpone that to when we have a quorum. Net metering. I know Peter had wanted to speak about that. As you know, he's keen on, as a solar person on his house, to get his net metering. He had some updated information, but there's been a lot happening on that. The PUC is looking at changing, potentially lowering the amount people are paid for their net metering. But there's a coalition of people have come to a position that includes, and it's the utilities, CPCNH, some of the other players, to keep the rates the same for 2 years. And that seems to be gaining some momentum. And I sent you all the community power statements, both Cliff Below's testimony and their position paper. They're putting a stake in the ground way out front and saying, let's skip ahead to having the utilities actually discreetly measure what you're putting back into the grid and pay you, and whichever source has been resisting, saying it's technically hard to do, and it is. And CPCNH is also saying they want rates to vary by time of the day, and they want to allow for battery power so that folks can put power back into the grid independent of what the sun's doing for maximum return. So, you know, I think that's a dream come true. Whether the PUC will go for a lot of that, we'll have to see. And
in my read of the material that you sent out is the PUC draft decision was going to be in November. I think I read that.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So there was a deadline for comments, August 30.
Yep.
And I think the coalition and I think there were a lot of comments from a lot of players.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very important decision. You know, it hugely affects the profitability for solar developers, rooftop solar, and even smaller, you know, municipal arrays. And CPCNH's goal, as you read, is that they would like all the changes in net metering to support a way that community power can take advantage for its users of net metering. And obviously that would be the best place for everyone to land. And I think they have a lot of lobbying clout, the number of towns that they have. Any other awareness that you guys have, intelligence that you guys have gathered through your industry connections or anything?
I think it's a topic that it might be helpful, Counselor, to have someone from CPCNH give us an update
Right
here at one of our fall meetings.
Right.
You know, this is just kind of hear directly from them in terms of where they see things.
Right.
Probably things playing out.
I did jump
or
on
from Tom Rooney, you know, however.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea because it takes 45 minutes to really unpack it.
Yeah.
I was on a Zoom call with Brian Calnan from the coalition when he went through all the ins and outs. And it's complex. But it's a very high priority for the coalition in terms of their government affairs effort. So I was happy about that. We have 140 or so users in Portsmouth that we know of, but that's growing and will continue to grow.
That's the number of residents that have solar and are net metering. Wow, it seems kind of low to me. I would think it would be a little higher than that, but
that's what it was in the spring of, where are we, when we went live in this late spring 2023.
It was 140.
Yeah.
So it's probably slightly increased.
I would imagine
since then. Okay.
Yeah. Tracy Cameron's taking the lead on a button-up workshop for October, which I think will be great. We'll host it at the library. Oh, the library's help.
Yes, library is promoting it, but the event is at campus.
Okay. October 23rd, just in time for apple cider donuts and cold weather. So you can think about insulation. But that's great that Tracy's taken the initiative on that, and we'll do all we can to support it. Spread the word to folks. There's always value in those. Herb, NREL, you were hopeful.
I was hopeful that we'd hear back from NREL with a statement of work, proposed statement of work by today, but we haven't yet. I think they're struggling, like a lot of folks, with people having taken vacation in August, and now that everybody's back in school, we should hear from them shortly. So we had a meeting with NREL, and it was including the planning department and TPW. It was a good meeting. We talked about scope of the engagement. And after walking away with that, there was some agreement with where we thought that they could help us out with doing an assessment. And so we kind of ruled out some things like, for example, Madbury. There's plenty of room out in Madbury to expand the solar array, and DPW, they've got the knowledge and the ability, if we want to issue an RFP to expand that. So is that, do we need technical guidance from NREL on that? And, the answer is probably no. And so there were a couple things that we kind of ruled out. Another one was waste to energy. And so NREL has a group, and they have grants, technical grants for waste to energy technologies. And so what we talked about was we being Portsmouth, can submit as a request to that group to look at our waste treatment plants and what is feasible, what would be possible technology-wise to go implement something that was waste energy. So we'll have to have a further conversation on that. So we did settle on solar or possibly wind at the wastewater treatment plants. So I think that's primarily going to be what's in their recommendation for the scope of work when they come back to us. Now, if we look at wind turbine, and not talking about something really large, I mean, this would be, something small, maybe not nearly as big or visible as, say, like what UNH has. We're talking, and we could even be, some of these new technologies with wind are doing, instead of horizontal, are doing vertical wind turbines, putting a series of them along the edge of a roof line, something like that. It could, this could be some possibilities. So hopefully we'll hear back from them in a few days. I'm heading out of the country next Tuesday, and I'll be gone for a week. But I'm going to let them know, John, if they're ready to deliver something, I'm going to make sure that they include you.
Okay.
So that, it doesn't sit in my inbox while I'm out of town.
When you're 8 time zones away.
Yeah, exactly. So it's exciting in that this is our first engagement with NREL, and there's lots of federal funding still for projects. And so maybe if this goes well and we like what they deliver to us, we could ask them to help us out with other projects too.
Right.
Be that kind of upfront do that technical analysis, feasibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I heard, just curious, are you looking at like the fenced in area of the treatment plant, or is it the larger?
Yeah, that's a great question. So something that came up with Pierce Island was, could we asked them this. I mean, we have the whole island essentially, although there are some parts of the island that would be restricted from using, but you've got a parking lot there. So next to the pool, so could we do solar canopy there and use the electricity either for the pool or for the wastewater treatment plant? Obviously we're not in the, off season, we're not going to be using the pool. So could you direct that towards the wastewater treatment plant? So they're gonna, let us know what they think about things like that. And in addition to wind,
Right.
yeah.
Great. Great.
But
Well,
I think there's a great opportunity for us to at least expand the solar out at Madbury. Because Brian Getz brought up the fact that they have lots of room.
Yeah.
Over there. So there shouldn't be any reason. I think Brian had referenced that on a sunny day, 41% of the electricity needs during the peak time of the day are supplied by that solar array.
right. Which
So
is
there's,
saving our taxpayers money.
yeah, definitely opportunities, especially with some of the federal funding.
Right.
That we probably want to talk about taking advantage of.
Yeah.
Another project for us to look at.
Well, I think NREL's said they're very helpful at finding funding sources.
Yeah. Yep.
So we get a double bonus on
Yeah.
that. Well, I would look forward to hearing what they're gonna
Yes.
give us.
Yeah.
And those are areas where we could get a fair amount of coverage for solar panels, just in terms of size.
Mm-hmm.
And we can put it behind the meter, which is benefits directly with cost.
Yeah, and I'm curious too, when you look at the efficiency of the panels that are available currently right now, are they, are they more efficient? How much more efficient are they than what was previously installed in Madbury? And, maybe they are more efficient. So we could get more electricity out of the same size array or smaller.
Yeah. That came up at Betsy Blaisdell's forum on solar. And yes, there's some big gains. I forget the percentages, but at least 15%,
Yeah.
In the more recent panels. So yeah, maybe.
NREL should be able to answer questions like that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Jones Avenue. Well, we await what Peter's found out. And I'll check in with him, Kevin, and see what more we need to do.
Yeah, just a question, reading the committee's report or commission's report back, I think it's like 2014, 15, for use of that property. The one thing, I mean, they did conclude that they didn't see solar. Is it just because it was, it was before its time? They were looking more, that committee's recommendations were more around activities and trails and et cetera.
Conservation land.
Yeah. And specifically as it related to solar, the committee had concluded it was not a good use of the land. I just, it just for my own historical understanding was there just, it was a little bit before its time in terms of use of solar on municipal properties. I don't know if you recall.
I can't give you an informed answer.
Okay.
I didn't get on the council till 19.
Yeah.
So.
I noticed the same thing reading that report. And I thought, not the best use. This time we've determined it's not the best use.
Yeah.
And I was curious. I know Peter Getz had mentioned that back when that group was looking at that, that there were some challenges about touching the cap. And so I'm thinking, well, maybe for some reasons like that, regulations, New Hampshire DES, or even federal EPA, that they didn't just, let's just let people walk across it, but let's not disturb it.
I think the structures back then for those types of arrays were a lot heavier. And if you look at like Exeter's situation, it's very light touch in terms of the arrays on their cap.
They're using those baskets full of rocks.
So,
just ballast.
Yeah.
Things may have changed, substantially. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned that to Katrin, and she said people are putting solar panels on top of landfills all the time now,
All right, yeah,
with just ballast solutions.
yeah.
Well, but you bring up a great point, Kevin, in that does the city of Portsmouth want it? Is there another use for that land? You know, we're looking at it for solar, but is there potential for other uses that the city of Portsmouth might want to pursue in the future?
There
Good
was,
question.
I think it's always been seen as walking trails and passive recreation, right? There was an effort in 2007, I think, to put a middle school there, which ran into a lot of opposition, not only because people liked the old downtown location and said just renovate that building so that kids can walk to school, but also, you know, safety on top of a landfill. There were a lot of parents who said, I don't want my kid, you know, playing football on top of or soccer on top of a landfill. And there was a engineering study that said there's a 1 in 700 chance of any pollution being released. And one of the parents said, what if my kid's one of the 700? So that was voted down, and we renovated on Parrot Avenue, and cost a little more, but I personally think it was a better solution.
In general, it seems that public is hypersensitive to landfills and pollution. So maybe solar array is the best use of that land.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can put playing fields on it. I
Yeah.
don't think you can even,
There's much that you can do.
yeah, right. But your question is, what are the competing uses?
Yeah.
And it may be that if we can find a feasible and workable proposal, we propose it, and then those who want competing uses that's the public process.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's not necessarily one or the other. I mean, you could still have passive
there's a lot of land
recreation and
there.
trails that go even with the solar array being in place.
The engineering question that intrigues me is, if you put it there, could you have it power the high school, or is that just too much distance? I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you
Behind the meter would be great.
behind the meter would be great, yeah, because then you'd have direct savings.
And boy, that high school consumes a lot of electricity.
It was not a LEED certified building.
Yeah.
It's not like the library. So I'll touch base with Peter and maybe have a work session. We'll get
Yeah, we can get going on this.
Yeah.
And just figure out the scope of what is it that we're trying to, accomplish in this first phase.
Right.
Yeah.
What is our deliverable?
Feasibility.
Yeah.
I think is it feasible? Sort of rough order of magnitude costs, something like that.
Yeah, I think, Kevin, you asked Katrin a lot of great questions. And, I think one of them was you had mentioned talking to the community power folks about, I thought you would ask that question. But
Yeah, they have the new guy who came on who's
The project.
their projects guy. And I think it's good for us to at least get a good connection with him. He's going forward. he was just starting when I came off the board. I can't remember his name now, but he had a very impressive background.
Maybe there's a project opportunity
Mhm.
to partnership with them on a solar array that would feed directly into community power.
That's where they want to go.
Yeah,
Is this the same location as the recreation area? On the map? Yeah. Big field on the creek.
Yeah, it's up
yeah.
above the creek.
And DPW what do they mow it twice a year or something?
Okay.
Right now,
I
keep the
don't know.
grass down to a certain level.
I imagine.
So it's where there are no trees.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There are a lot of trails that go around in the woods.
yeah,
Yeah, the whole behind the high school thing is
yeah, exactly.
There's cross-country trails.
well developed. Yeah. Right. Thank you.
We looked at it for housing, but you're not going to put housing on top of a landfill. So, Seacoast Green Challenge. You all saw, but that was launched. We got some publicity. Thank you, Stephanie. Stephanie worked really hard on it. And we got some play in Herald and Seacoast Media Group and some other places, I think.
I think NHPR.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We included the first baseline report for you.
And that is in the revised packet that got posted yesterday. So if you downloaded the packet before yesterday, go back to the meeting, you'll have those two reports.
Okay.
Which obviously covered just July. And so it's the model for when we'll start with August.
Yeah. So we've got
It breaks it out by town.
we've got something we can measure with, and you saw Stephanie's nice messaging on the green cards.
And I've been including different ones of those billboards in the city newsletter, mostly so far focused on explaining the recs and what is renewable and all of those questions have come up, which does bog down into a fair amount of detail that isn't easy to communicate in this. But I also have a simple opt-up that we talked about yard signs, and that's the kind of thing that we might consider doing for a yard sign. And I can also share that so far the cheapest I've seen for yard signs is $7 a piece, not including the stand.
Wow.
Yeah. Which seems very high to me for something that shouldn't be very complicated. So I do need to check. That was from Vistaprint, where we do a lot of stuff. Postcards are like pennies a card through them, but we may be able to do something better locally with Southport or you know. So I will look at that.
And how environmentally, I hate to ask this question, but this
They're
people,
awful.
when I was on the sustainability committee, people would ask me about the yard signs, and especially with the political season. What happens to those? They end up in the landfill. How environmentally sound, So something else to think about.
Yeah.
It's interesting though,
But,
that Great Bay Stewards have a yard sign program that I'm a Great Bay steward, and that's been very successful for them. Somebody has to have a great creative solution for the green solution to.
Are they on wooden stakes or metal?
Metal.
Yeah, they used to be in the old days, wooden stakes, right?
Well, maybe what you could do is, you get it for 90 days and then it rotates to the next new person. So you're essentially recycling it all.
Sounds hard to manage.
Yeah, we get the brand new shiny ones, and whoever's that the sixth gets the patterned ones.
Well, all of us who've been candidates know that.
I thought you were gonna say that we should, well, thinking through it myself. We should have green challenge on one side and a political campaign on the other side. And get the candidate to sponsor it.
Dual
So at
purpose.
least there'll be dual purpose.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. But then you don't get people seeing your message from both sides. Oh,
So I will continue to research options, because there are two, what I'm looking at are the plasticized, they're corrugated cardboard with a plastic finish, but they're paper with metal stands. You can also get the ones that are the metal frames with a plastic bag that essentially fits over them. I don't know, I mean, to me, that seems less environmentally friendly than the corrugated cardboard, but both options are out there.
signsonthecheap.com.
Yeah.
Have you, no,
That's
that's the
Vistaprint,
place.
yes.
that's Vistaprint.
Well, Signs on the Cheap probably really is some, like, you know.
I've used them.
Sometimes you see people have little signs you put in your window, you know, like in
Yeah.
the front window of your house.
Like a window
Decal.
cling, so that,
I mean, Portsmouth, the homes are so close to the street that could be
Yeah.
effective too.
That's another option too.
and they'd be a lot less expensive than $7 a piece.
Yeah.
Let me bring more detail next.
So it's underway. And there's nice cooperation among the town and city managers. I think it was Durham that initiated the idea. So we wanted to get a report to get the metrics. We've got that. We wanted to get the publicity of the launch. We've done that. Now we're just messaging and see what we get. But we did see, as you saw in that report, a small but hopeful number of opt-ups. And month by month, hopefully get that to accumulate. And, you know, our messaging around what Clean 50 and Clean 100 really are is scrupulously accurate. Maybe not as fun as saying, you know, net zero electricity, but I think we're better to be honest and accurate. So we'll let that one run. Any other old business? No? Thanks for coming. Betsy is in Paris.
Is it